Welcome to the Leading Hope Podcast with Kevin Jack. Your influence will lead people somewhere, lead them towards hope. Everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.
Welcome to Leading Hope with Kevin Jack. I'm your host, VJ Williams, here with my friend and pastor, Kevin Jack. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your day to become a better leader. We will release a new episode every Wednesday, so we'd love for you to subscribe, share on social media, and bring others along with you on this journey of becoming a better leader. Visit leadinghope.online to get updates and find out more about the Leading Hope community. Today we are in episode 16, Ethos Villain. That is, dum. That's one of those things. Maybe we should put music. I know the music probably just ended, but we probably need to put music back in.
Yeah, or maybe we just do that as like sound effects. Like you do like some horror sound effects in the background.
Yeah. Maybe we can get
high-pitched screams.
Maybe we can edit that in. That would be fantastic. But seriously, episode 16, we're still on Ethos. We're talking about the villain.
Personal culture.
What is the villain, Kevin? Let's go.
This is going to be fun. So here's the recap to catch you up. Everything has a culture. Businesses, schools, organizations, companies, whatever it is, it has a culture. It's how they do the things they do. It's how you feel. It's who you are at the end of the day. You have a personal culture. And so instead of worrying about the culture for right now, about everything that you're involved in, we want to talk about your culture. What is your spirit? What is the ethos you carry with you? And so we've talked about, to this date, identifying it, how you can change it, and designing what it needs to be. And that's what episode 14 and 15 were largely about. Today,
Love it.
I want to talk about the thing that's in everybody's personal culture, that's in everybody's ethos, and it is the one thing that no one seems to care about that's in their ethos. Like you would go within there like, oh, I'm probably low energy. I want to be more energetic. I probably am a little irritable. And I need to be a little easier to get along with. Like, that's typically what most people are going to be drawn to. And so today, I want to talk about pride.
Ooh.
I want to talk about how pride is part of your spirit. Pride is part of what you carry with you. And we're going to get to identifying it in just a little bit. We're going to talk about getting rid of it in just a second. But first, I want to tell you the dangers of pride. Because just right off the bat, there's a couple massive dangers of having pride in your life. The first one is this, is it cuts you off from learning. When you are prideful in any way, and I'm not talking about you're a narcissist, because in 20 minutes, we can't help you with your narcissism. You need to go see a counselor to help you. You need to go to real church, not just podcast church. You need to go to a real church to help you with your narcissism. But when our pride, when some arrogance is there, it cuts us off from learning. We all of a sudden categorize people as people who we can learn something from and people who we can't. And here's the tendency is we don't simply view people beyond us, people who are ahead of us, as people who we can learn something from. Instead, we categorize as people who are like us, are people who we can learn something from. So just for fun, like within there, like we're in a country in which politics are prevalent. And man, whichever side of the party line you fall on, you can't learn a thing from the people on the other side of the party line. And what that is, that's pride. That's pride. And so what's the problem with our country? It's not politics. It's pride. What's the problem with anything? It's pride because it cuts us off from learning from those who we need to learn something from. If you're only listening to people who already think and act like you, you're learning nothing. You're just reinforcing your prior held assumptions. So the dangers of pride, it cuts you off from learning. Second thing, it cuts you off from expressing need and gratitude. You can't ask for help and you have difficulty saying thank you because of your pride, because your pride leads you to believe you don't need anyone else. And so I kind of gave the intro pieces on that. Pride destroys a team. More than anything else, pride destroys a team. This is one of the things that I've loved to watch. I'm a huge NBA fan. Dwight Howard has made his way back to the Lakers. And Dwight Howard, if anyone who follows the NBA, he's a center. He was an all-star center. He was an all-NBA center. He was on the Lakers before. He had fantastic stats, but people would say he was a terrible teammate. And then he hopped around on 4 or 5 different teams and was just a terrible teammate that no one wanted to play with. And no one like devalued his ability. There were concerns about his injury, but that's not for this podcast to deal with. But like no one thought like, oh, he stinks. Oh, he's terrible. Oh, he can't play. It was like, no, he's going to destroy our team. And so when he came back to the Lakers, they said he went through all these different interviews with players, and the players had to sign off on it that they wanted him to be their teammate because they know that pride kills a team. Third thing, danger of pride. And I don't have a better way of saying this, so I'm just going to say it bluntly. It treats people as tools. Like, when you do that, you treat someone as something to be used instead of someone to be valued. That's what you're doing at the end of the day. The prideful person makes other people become closed off. And you've experienced that. You've been in a room where the arrogance of one individual came up against the personality of another person, and that personality shut down. They quit laughing. They quit expressing themselves. They lived with a sense of fear. They quit being who they were. And that's what pride does, is you destroy the spirit of other people when your pride is there. And so pride is incredibly dangerous. Pride is one of those things that's within our ethos, within our personal culture, within our spirit, that more than anything else, we have to get rid of. So let's talk about, before we get to how to get rid of it, let's talk about how you identify it. Because it's hard to identify. Because we see it in other people and we know its effects in other people, but we rarely see it in the mirror. So a couple things to be aware of on how to identify pride. First off, you're harsh. You're harsh. You see people around you shutting down. When you walk into someone's office, they don't seem glad for you to be there. They seem a little more guarded. When you're in the room, people are laughing in other rooms that you're not in, but rarely in the room that you're in. Your harshness is causing people to shut down, is one way to identify that pride is in your life. Second way, and this is something that we all see in someone else, but rarely in ourselves, is you become entitled. You're focused on what you deserve and what you don't deserve. You become frustrated when you're asked to serve or do things outside your skill set, or do things that you think are beneath your ability or beneath your pay grade. You have a monologue that goes on when you do mundane routine activities about how someone else should be doing this and how much more valuable you are than someone else and how they don't pull their weight and how dare someone ask you to do this. You aren't able to serve. You become entitled. You're focused on what you deserve is evidence that pride is taking a strong hold in your life. And the third thing within there, how to identify pride, is that there are relationships that are shattered or under strain in your life that you don't care about. And I want to give as a note, there's a massive difference between deliberately distancing yourself from someone for your and their health. Like, not every relationship has to be forever. Some relationships should be there for a season. If you've got a friend in your life who's pulling you down the wrong direction, you may have made a very wise, conscious choice to distance yourself from that relationship. That's not pride, that's wisdom. Pride is, there's a relationship with a family member or a friend that because of an incident, because of an event has become strained, and you don't care. You are callous, you are cold. This is not a podcast, or at least this episode is not about how to reconcile strained relationships. So we're not getting into that. This is about identifying pride. And if you have a strained or shattered relationship that you are oblivious to, could care less about, that means there's some sense of pride in your life. So how do you get rid of pride? How do you, for something that is so dangerous, when it's a part of your personal ethos, your personal culture, when there's something that is so dangerous, but is also at the same time so difficult to identify, how do you actually get rid of it? And there's a number of different ways. The one way that is actually the most important way, we're going to talk about in the next episode. And I don't mean this to be like a 20-minute teaser for episode 17, But that truly is, we're going to get into this in the next episode. And honestly, we're going to talk about some faith matters, and we're going to talk about Jesus a lot. And we'll get into that then. But I want to give you just a practical understanding of the framework of this. And I'll show you how that's truly fleshed out in episode 17. But this is how you get rid of pride, is through truths and values. And I know that's what we talked about last time. I know that's what we talked about, how you shape your ethos. But your pride is part of your ethos. And so it's important that we call special attention to it and acknowledge that the way you get rid of pride is through the exact same way. It's through your truths, what you hold to be deeply true, and your values, what you believe absolutely matters most. When I value others more than myself, pride is an endangered species in my life. When I value being a part of something significant and important more than I value getting the credit, pride is an endangered species in my life. When I believe that every single person has equal value regardless of their significance or accomplishments, pride loses its hold on my spirit, loses its hold on my life. And so there's some things that if pride is there are some things that you believe to be true, and there are some things that you value that have put it there. And my guess is they have something to do with your significance because of your career success, something to do with your need for affirmation from those around you, something to do with your desire to be noticed or rewarded every time you do something that you feel is significant in some way, that there's some truths and values that are there that have furthered that. Or maybe, possibly, as we talked about in the last episode, there's some behaviors that are eroding your truths and values. You act in a way that never compliments someone else. You act in a way that never encourages someone else. When everyone else pitches in, you ditch. You're gone. You use that as an excuse to go home early when everyone else is pressing in and working hard. You make excuses for why you're not tied to the collective goals of the team and are only held for the goals of yourself. But the point in this is all these things that we've talked about in terms of behaviors eroding our identity, truths and values forming our identity, are true when it comes to pride. And here's my guess, is that if you actually sat down and said, hey, what is my ethos right now and what do I want my ethos to be? Pride, my guess, wasn't on your list.
Yeah.
My guess is you had a lot of other surface things, and you need to be aware of this because this is the most significant thing that's going to destroy a healthy personal culture in your life. And so you have to constantly be aware of it, or you will go to ruin because of the effects it has.
Oh, man. Pride. The ethos villain.
The ethos villain.
Pride is something I actually like to talk a lot about because it was one of the things that I was using for years as a healthy piece, which is actually was destroying relationships. And I know that
Keep
we're
talking
not,
about it.
We're not going to, I don't want to go into all the relationships because that's what I end up talking to a lot of guys about.
Okay.
And especially in their relationships, whether it's in a marriage or even if it's at work, mostly around marriages, is that the fear of being wrong, that prideful thing, a fear of being wrong, actually dominates your personality, and that's who you become. And then what I have written down here, and this is it's the same thing as what you have. Pride is a killer, and I've always said that it kills learning, it kills the heart, like you said, and it kills relationships. Pride keeps leaders from doing the right thing every time. It's such a sad thing because you even know before you do it that it's pride, and you say, and pride, it's ironic that pride is the one stopping you when you know it's already the one that's creating that within.
Pride keeps leaders from doing the right thing because the leader is tasked with doing what's best for us, and pride tells them to do what's best for me.
Yeah, that's exactly
That's
right.
good.
Yeah, that is good. I'll encourage everybody real quick, and then not to just plug the Be Hope Church sermons. If you have not watched Planted, Not Buried, a few Sundays ago, you'll want to watch that. Kevin said something very astute that you want to pay attention to in that sermon that has to do with a lot about this. It has some pride in it. It's not about pride, but the sermon takes on a piece.
We definitely touch on it.
Yeah, and one of the things you said is if your life is about yourself. It can never be bigger than you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, pride's telling you the different. That's saying the opposite.
Yep.
It's saying, you're the one that did all this. Make it about you, and everyone can follow.
That's good.
And we're actually throwing that on its head in this particular, and making it the villain, which it really is.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think the hardest thing is this sounds weird in terms of terminology, but per world's values, pride can drive people to accomplish an enormous amount.
Yeah.
Pride can drive so many things in terms of perseverance, work ethic, all these other things, but it's not done in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And so while it can lead to significant accomplishments, it's ultimately to the detriment of everything around. And so pride wears this beautiful mask that says, I'm a good thing, I'm driving this is positive, when it's really slowly eroding everything that's going on around it.
Yep, I agree. I don't even know if you'll have an answer to this question. We don't script these things, but I just always like to ask the other side of it, and I want to ask it now because someone I guarantee is driving in their car or watching on YouTube in their home, and they're saying, well, how can, and this is how they're saying it, well, how can being proud be healthy? How can it? There's got to be some healthy ways, because you are like proud of your kids when they do something that they should do, and you're proud. Outside of that, I mean, where can it be a healthy thing?
Well, that's a great distinction to understand. Like, man, I am proud of a lot of things.
Yeah,
I am proud of our church. I am proud of my kids. I am proud of our family. Like, there's a ton of things that I am proud of, that they are in a spot that I feel, let's say it like this, that I feel delight in where we are and what has happened. And there's a massive difference between experiencing delight in where we are and being a motivating force behind all of it. Pride is different in terms of, like, proud is about delight. Pride is about ego.
Oh, wow.
And we could probably make some further distinctions deeper down. Ryan Holiday has a great book titled Ego is the Enemy, in which he probably does a better job of clarifying this. But I think that's a reality at the end of the day. Proud, destination. Proud of who we are and what we've accomplished along the way.
Yeah.
But pride as that deep source of, like, pride as the motivator, it's never enough. No accomplishment is enough. No success is enough. It's bitter. It holds on to all these other things that have happened in the past. And the hardest thing, so to give as a reference point, I don't know if anyone's watched this, Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame speech. So Michael Jordan, the number 1 or number 2 best basketball player of all time, based upon what you believe within that.
Who?
That's not this podcast. Maybe we should just switch the title of the podcast to That's Not This Podcast. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about whether he's the best or not, but he has this Hall of Fame speech. And in this Hall of Fame speech, he starts to list off everyone who didn't believe in him, everyone who he proved wrong. And that drove him to do some great things. But it also had caustic effects all around him.
Yes.
And I think maybe this is the most startling thing of all of it, is for most of us, we would take terrible relationships, terrible life, bitterness and anger at our past and those who didn't believe in us for significant accomplishment.
Yeah.
And we look at Michael Jordan as someone to emulate instead of understanding what he accomplished is significant, but there's a better way to go about it that doesn't have a caustic effect on everyone around you. So
true, man. This one will go down in the books as something that we probably all will need to take a look at. You don't want to be cliche or whatever, but for me, it's so easy for me to recognize when pride's starting to enter is who gets the glory for what's going on. When I give it to God and glory and make sure that everyone understands that He is responsible for my actions that are turning out to be successes, then it's not pride anymore. And I'm just proud to be part of something bigger than me.
Pride does not coexist with praise.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's fantastic. So we'll leave it there. Is there something you want to follow up with what we had before we get into next week?
I just don't think, I think it's so easy for pride to slip off the radar, and it never can. It's always got to be on your radar in terms of where it is in your life.
Yeah, man. Have a pulse. Have a pulse for pride. That's good. And just so everybody knows, Michael Jordan was the number one. And so, but that's not what this podcast is
That's
about.
not what this podcast
This was
is.
about ethos, villain, about pride being a killer in our life, and get a pulse on it. It's fantastic. We're so thankful for you guys to join us for another week. It's been great. Don't forget to subscribe, email us, rate us, review it, and just check it out. Share it with your friends, and just be part of the community and talk to us. Let us know how it's affecting maybe your relationships, maybe how you're leading in your organizations, maybe in your church, maybe your volunteer squad. All those people are benefiting from any of this. We want to hear about it. We want to know about it. It's been encouraging for us to hear all your stories. So thank you so much, and we can't wait to see you back next week for episode 17, Ethos Overhaul. You guys have a great week. God bless you.